Hashimoto's can be a very overwhelming and very complicated disease. So I wanted to go over this with you, why it's more than just a thyroid problem, and some tips that you can start right away that can kind of help with having Hashimoto's and lower those thyroid antibodies. So first, really, what is Hashimoto's? So Hashimoto's is when we have this autoimmune attack on our own thyroid. So our body basically thinks that our thyroid is a foreign invader and it mistakenly attacks it. So it pretty much tries to destroy the tissue over time. And that's how we get thyroid antibodies. So if you get a thyroid blood test done, two of the antibodies that I do recommend to have checked are TPO, which is called thyroid peroxidase, and thyroid globulin. Sometimes it's abbreviated TG or TGAB. So these are typically elevated. TPO is probably the more common one that we will see elevated. The unfortunate part is when we have this autoimmune attack where our body really thinks our thyroid's a foreign invader, it tries to destroy the tissue. Because there's tissue destruction, this can lead to hypothyroidism. Now, I also wanted to mention that 90 to 95% of people that actually have hypothyroidism, they actually have Hashimoto's and a lot of times don't know it. One of the reasons is because most doctors aren't checking thyroid antibodies, and so this makes it very challenging to know if you have it if they're not even checking it in the first place. Secondly, the other factor I wanted to mention is that a lot of times the antibodies, they like to stay dormant. They can be very hidden and dormant. You may not even know you have them. So that's why when I'm working with clients, a lot of times when I know they already do have a diagnosed condition of hypothyroidism, I'm treating it in such a way that there's this possibility that there could be antibodies popping up at some point. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is what causes it. What is the root cause? Why do we get Hashimoto's in the first place? It's just like any autoimmune condition, by the way. There's various different reasons that can trigger anything autoimmune. The unfortunate part is that once you have one autoimmune disease, it's very, very common to have another autoimmune disease. And so you really want to work on that autoimmune disease when you are diagnosed with it. So some people are just more susceptible to it. There's a genetic factor. But the other thing, a lot of times it's environmental as well. So things like stress, if we're very, very stressed out. I get a lot of women coming to me post-pregnancy. They went through pregnancy and all of a sudden they have Hashimoto's. That is a stressor on the body. Remember all the things you have to go through when you're pregnant. Sometimes it's diet that's doing it, the foods that you're eating. It can be just that you have overall inflammation. Gut health is really bad. We have nutrient deficiencies, environmental toxins, heavy metals. We could even have like a gut pathogen. These are all really big triggers for Hashimoto's. So the big thing is we want to start thinking about, first of all, what could be the cause, and then what can we work on to prevent either A, having thyroid antibodies, and B, reducing those antibodies if we do already have them. So first I want to start with gut health. Gut is so important when it comes to our immune system. Remember, 80% of our immune system is housed in our gut. So we want to make sure our immune system is really good and strong so that if we do get this autoimmune condition, we can fight that. So you want to do a lot of like gut healing foods. Even drinking like aloe juice is really good for our gut. It can actually lower thyroid antibodies. Eating anti-inflammatory foods, eating the perimeter of the grocery store mostly, that's very helpful. Reduce alcohol intake. You could consider even taking like a probiotic. One thing that I do like to do, I actually like to look at stool testing, because stool testing, we can actually see what bacteria you're deficient in, so what probiotic you need, but also from this, we can see if you have anything triggering the antibodies. So if we have a gut pathogen, if you have a parasite or a bacteria, a virus, even leaky gut, these are big triggers for an autoimmune disease, especially Hashimoto's. And so I always like to do stool testing to rule that out. Now, taking it a step further, when we're thinking about foods that we're eating, eating nutrient-dense foods, so that perimeter of the grocery store, lots of fruits and vegetables, protein sources that are super clean, avoiding things that are inflammatory. So things like gluten and sugar, soy, dairy can be very inflammatory for people that have Hashimoto's, so I would definitely consider cutting that out as well. If you are a little bit confused on I don't even know what that looks like, I do have a free guide. It's called Thyroid Friendly Grocery Guide. It is an anti-inflammatory diet. It really goes into ways that you can reduce those antibodies or prevent having thyroid antibodies. So just grab the link below so you can get that. And then I'll make sure that goes right to you. Now, another thing I also wanted to mention that is super helpful when we are thinking about thyroid antibodies are toxins. If we are getting bombarded and overloaded with toxins and heavy metals and things like that, you are going to really run that risk of having thyroid antibodies or making them worse, because when we have an autoimmune disease, you're prone to liver congestion and vice versa. So that's why we want to make sure we're working on our liver health. So swapping our everyday products out with thyroid-friendly products, doing things like castor oil packs, dry skin brushing, the sauna, rebounding. These are very, very helpful for our liver overall and getting toxins removed. Thinking about, drinking aloe juice. I mentioned this a little bit ago, but I also want to piggyback that with even doing an aloe vera supplement could be helpful. That has been a lot of studies showing that can reduce thyroid antibodies just by doing that every single day. Another supplement that I do like, it's called ovasitol, which is just a really strong version of inositol. This is very helpful as well. Now let's talk about stress. So managing stress is huge. We need to calm our nervous system. We need to calm down the stressor response. Anything that's going to be helpful for you. So you have to get something out of it. So if you hate meditation, I wouldn't suggest doing that. But things like meditation, tapping, breath work, journaling, just going for a walk, singing, dancing, whatever's going to work for you. Stress is a huge, huge component to causing this autoimmune response where we have this inflammation in the body. So really making sure we're working on our stress response. Red light therapy is also something else that I wanted to mention. I love red light therapy. This is probably one of my favorites when it comes to reducing our thyroid antibodies, particularly the TPO. There's a lot of studies showing how it can reduce TPO antibodies, and it can just improve our overall thyroid health. You can do red light therapy right over where your thyroid is, or just overall body as a whole. But it's very, very helpful. I've used it myself. I think it's phenomenal for something like this. And like I said, there's a lot of studies showing it can actually reduce thyroid antibodies. The other thing too is they make castor oil packs. Queen of the Thrones is my favorite. They make a castor oil pack that is a teeny little thyroid one. It literally goes right over your thyroid and just brings good blood flow to it. So that could be something else you could do as well. So these are kind of some of my top tips when I'm thinking about how do we reduce our thyroid antibodies? How to reduce this autoimmune attack? How do we prevent the autoimmune attack? Because this could also be preventative. But then lastly, I wanted to mention testing is usually key. With all of my clients, we do extensive testing. We look at heavy metals. We're looking at gut testing. We're looking at what your adrenals are doing. Is your adrenals just completely tapped out and you're stressed out? We're looking at our minerals because these are all huge components to our immune response and what our autoimmune condition is doing, particularly if you already have thyroid antibodies, and then like I said, as prevention as well. So let me know if you have any questions, particularly about how we go about this testing that we do, and then if you have any other questions about some of the products or things that I mentioned. I'll put as many links below as I can for you for some of my favorite products and discount codes that can help you with some of this stuff. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.